Other left parties also question this, particularly after by-elections. And Sarah, may I say, looking at the transfer patterns of by-elections, we see two-thirds of Labour transfers in Dublin Central going to the Social Democrats and Greens, two-thirds of the Social Democrat transfers going into our Helen Ogbu in Galway West. We see voters clearly voting in accordance with that transfer left model. And Sinn Féin transfers, and may I say this again, looking at the transfer patterns, we see more transfers in Galway West from Sinn Féin going to Independent Ireland than to Helen Ogbu, the leading left candidate.
Parties describe themselves and see themselves as a left-wing party. Marilyn McDonald said that after the by-election. They do have a number of left-wing policies, abolishing USC for average workers, solidarity tax at 3% over €100,000 of income, an eviction ban, which is in keeping with many of the other left-wing parties. Do you accept that if you're saying you want a left-led government after the next election, that won't be possible without Sinn Féin?
What I believe, Sarah, and I've consistently said it, and it's consistently been Labour's position, is that after the next election, as indeed I wanted to do after the last one, Labour, Social Democrats and the Greens, as three parties that share a common vision and common values, should come together to negotiate with each of the three bigger parties.
No, I understand that you said that, right? Okay, and I do understand that you said that.
Differences with all of those.
The numbers don't lie, and judging on where the polls are at the moment, even if all three of you come together, you will not have the numbers to put together a left-led government. There will not be an alternative government put forward to the electorate in the next general election, if that's the tactic that you take.
Communities across the country, in a cost of living crisis, in a housing crisis, communities are crying out for change and for an alternative government that is led by a left-wing group of parties, a left and green group of parties that have different fresh policies that look for an active state, for the state construction, for the state to get directly involved again in building homes and delivering healthcare.
You don't have the numbers for that without Sinn Féin.
Sarah, can I say this? What we've seen in previous elections is where you have a collective group of parties, a collective group of individuals who share a common platform, you can direct government policy. So what I want us to do is to form that united bloc after the next election, and indeed to present this to voters in advance of the election.
Okay, so direct government policy is possible. That is interesting, because actually what you're suggesting there is what we've seen in the past. It's not new and it's not change. It's what we've seen in the past, where Labour and others act as a mudguard for Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil in a bigger government.
Far from it. What we've seen in previous governments, Sarah, is driving the policy. Look at the Greens in government, in the last government, and look how they were able to make changes in climate. And indeed, just yesterday in Dáil, I was pointing out to the Taoiseach that the exit of the Green Party from the last government meant the death penalty in its own ambition on climate. And we're clearly seeing that in the Environmental Protection Agency reports and the dire warnings that we simply are not going to meet our climate targets at all at this point because of this rowing back of climate. So let me say this: people want an alternative. We saw clear momentum from the centre-left Greens in those two by-elections at the weekend. We saw, unfortunately, regression on women's representation, and that's why we need now ourselves, the Greens, the Social Democrats, along with support of others, to come forward with a candidate who can capture support from a broad base and win a Shannon seat.
Can I ask you finally, we heard earlier from our political correspondent Barry Lennon that the government is preparing what they're calling the biggest overhaul of rural housing policy in 2 decades. Effectively, it's going to apparently make it much easier for people to build one-off housing. What is Labour's position on that?
Well, I saw the reports. We certainly haven't seen any detail on this yet. And may I say that there's a tendency now in government, particularly from Fine Gael, to fly kites rather than having any delivery. So they've flown kites on what Conor Sheehan, our housing spokesperson, has described as the beds in sheds or sheds in model. And now they're flying kites on an overhaul of rural housing. We've seen what poor planning has led to across communities with ghost estates, with vacancy and dereliction. And indeed, we are very conscious of a lack of infrastructure. But in a housing crisis, of course, we do need creative proposals to ensure people can get homes. So we do absolutely accept that with 5,500 children in homelessness. But let's see the detail of this. And first of all, let's get some delivery from government on the building of homes. That's what we need. That's what communities need. Not these sort of kite-flying measures that seem to come to nothing.
Labour leader Ivana Bacik, thank you for joining us on the programme this morning. The time is 8:27. Now, as we settle into a summer of long, bright evenings, the new initiative, Dublin by Dusk, is seeking to provide people in the capital with a range of alternative nighttime activities. Launching today, the plan will see selected cultural venues, visitor attractions and retail and hospitality businesses you expect the initiative to grow footfall in the city into the evening?
We've seen a lot of encouragement from businesses wanting to get involved, and as I said before, for the first month we're anticipating more. We're going to run it for 10 months, so it's really everything from museums, galleries, cultural spaces, hospitality, retail, everything coming together under one coordinated programme.
Okay, it's part of Dublin City Council's nighttime economy strategy. That strategy aims to bring improvement in 3 pillars. It also mentions mobility and transport and cultural activity and safety. On the transport side of things, will there be additional transport or later running transport options for people who are coming into the city at night?
This is a bit more about late evening and early into the night, and we've currently the transport situation that we've 15 24-hour buses, we've 12 night links that run into a weekend. The taxi service seems to have improved as of late, so public transport is in reasonable shape at the minute.
Okay, and on the safety aspect of things then, will there be any increased Garda presence on the last Thursday of every month to cope with potential increased footfall?
From a safety perspective as well, it's something that's encouraging. When we launched the strategy back in October 24, I think Dubliners felt, only 31% felt safe in the city at night, and we've got that to over 40%, that's the first time in 15 years. We've been monitoring for 15 years that we've got that over 40%. So small increase, but it's encouraging.
Yeah, it's still pretty low, isn't it? You'd love to see that get to a majority of people feeling safe in the city.
And it changes with demographic. Young men, 18 to 25. I think it's about 70%. It's older people, over 65. So, and then with tourists, it's very high. I don't know the exact figure, but now it's up to 90% or something. So, it just does change from demographic.
Okay. Ray, if people want to find out more about what's on the last Thursday of every month, where can they get that information?
DublinByDusk.ie, there's a full listing there, and as I said, we're going to run it for 10 months, and we're hoping that more and more businesses get involved and more events happening as we move along.
All right, Ray O'Donoghue, thank you very much for joining us on the programme this morning. The time now is 8:30. Karen Carthy has the news.
US forces have carried out further strikes against Iranian military targets amid escalating tensions over shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and disputed claims of a possible deal. The strikes were described by a US official as defensive and aimed at protecting US forces and commercial shipping. The escalation came shortly after the US President Donald Trump rejected reports of a draft agreement involving Iran and Oman to manage traffic through the strait. Israel's military has said it's carried out fresh strikes on Hezbollah infrastructure around the southern Lebanese city of Tyre after issuing evacuation warnings for residents. The Israeli Defense Forces earlier said civilians in affected areas should move north of the Zahrani River, warning that remaining in place would put them at risk. The escalation comes amid renewed cross-border exchanges with Hezbollah, despite ongoing diplomatic efforts to prevent further violence. Gardaí have said high-visibility patrols will continue over the coming days in the areas surrounding all 42 primary schools in County Carlow. It comes after 20 of those schools received an email yesterday morning outlining details of a threat and also included a stock image picture of 3 guns. It's understood one line of inquiry is that the email may have been sent by a group that deliberately sets out to create a large-scale policing response through the spread of false threats and misinformation. And the weather, dry and bright in the north and east this morning, duller elsewhere with patches of light rain, drizzle and mist that will spread northeastwards this afternoon. Highest temperatures of 17 to 24 degrees.
Karen, thank you. 8:32, still here in the Phoenix Park, and you can watch us too on the RTE News channel. We'll be talking to more gardeners later who've won awards in the last few minutes. First, Tanya's here too with more business news.
Tomorrow Board Bia will be hosting its annual Bloom Trade Breakfast, connecting Irish food and drink producers with the country's top retail and food service buyers. We're joined by Board Bia's food service manager, Maureen Gahan. Maureen, good morning. Is Trade Breakfast effectively shaping what consumers might see on supermarket shelves or in restaurants?
Yeah, to a certain extent. We're really delighted to once again host our Trade Breakfast tomorrow morning.
We've over 250 buyers from the key retailers and restaurant or hospitality providers in Ireland, all coming together for the ability to network with the exhibitors here at Bloom, the food and drink producers, over 100 of them. We're opening early at 8 o'clock, so they've got at least an hour before the public arrive on site. But in terms of what's happening out there on shelves and in restaurants, we do see that consumers more and more, they're concerned and interested not just about where their food is coming from, but also how it's produced. So we're seeing definite drive and demand for clean label and better for you offerings, and we're seeing that a number of our exhibitors here are launching new products at Bloom. So we have the likes of, say, Oak Park and Brady Family Ham with a nitrate-free range. We've got some of the companies that are doing better for you and smaller snacking options like Blanco Niño with their individual packs of tortillas. We've got BSO doing a really interesting fiber, heavy or nutrient oat snack as well. So it's great to see that that's reflecting, because that's what the buyers are looking for as well. They're looking to meet with existing but also new customers, and they want to know what's new from an innovation and new product development point of view. All right, so a very important day tomorrow for Irish food industry. Thank you so much, Maureen Gahan from Board B, a food service manager at Board B, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
RTE Radio 1, traffic and travel.
With Hyundai, #1 for EV sales in Ireland in 2026. Visit Hyundai.ie and check out our calculator to see how changing to electric in 262 can reduce fuel costs.
With the latest traffic and travel news, I'm Orla Woods. Starting in Dublin, the Naas Road is slow inbound coming from the M50 towards the Long Mile Road junction. St. John's Road is slow inbound from Island Bridge towards the Quays, and out on the N3 inbound there's a delay from junction 4 Clonee to junction 2 Blanchardstown. And of course Bloom starts today in the Phoenix Park. There's no road or gate closures, but the Ashtown gate of the Phoenix Park will be used for entry only, and there are free shuttle buses running from Parkgate Street right up until 7 o'clock this evening. Elsewhere in Limerick, the Corbally Road has a southbound queue between the Atlunkard Bridge and the Mill Road junction. And Cork's Lower Glenmire Road is heaviest westbound as you head towards the North Ring Road. Finally, in Galway, Bohanadrab is busy westbound between the Coola Roundabout and the Monivea Road junction. That's your latest traffic and travel news.
1 million kilometers. That's a lot of school runs, a lot of last-minute getaways, a lot of unforgettable journeys. In a Toyota electric car, you're ready for all of them. With EV extended battery care cover of up to 1 million kilometers or a decade of driving. That's a million good reasons to book your test drive today. Toyota, built for a better world. T's and C's apply, subject to an EV health check in the Toyota network as per specifications.
If you run a small business, you'll know there are some things you can control and some you can't. But when it comes to managing costs, you can access government supports to help. The National Enterprise Hub is a free service that makes it easier to find advice, support and mentoring, helping you keep costs under control. Get the support your business needs. Visit nih.gov.ie. The National Enterprise Hub. Support starts here. An initiative of the Government of Ireland.
RTE Radio 1. The Script, Man of the Arena Tour, live in 2026. Coming to 3 Arena for 2 shows on Friday, October 30th and Saturday, October 31st. With very special guest, James Morrison. Tickets available this Friday at 9:30 a.m. The Script, live. Via today for free bookings.
Music updates on RTE Radio 1. Morning Ireland on RTE Radio 1. Sport on RTE Radio.
Joe, thank you very much. That is our business editor, Joe Lynham. It is just nudging 20 minutes to 9. Claire Byrne is with us. Claire, what have you got?
Good morning to you. I did hear you talking earlier on about the ticket pricing fixing allegations in relation to the World Cup. So we're looking at that in more detail. But also,
€5 average ticket.
it's
€5.
it's crackers. So New York and New Jersey, as you've been hearing, are investigating this. But there's a political quirk here because the Attorney General in New York is a woman called Letitia James, who has had her political difficulties with Donald Trump when she tried to take action against him prior to his second term. Donald Trump has a relationship with FIFA.
Oh, that's right.
Remember he did the special award?
He's right.
Yes, I think that's a bit of a watcher, quite a
aside from the issue of the price of the tickets, which is obviously very important for anyone going to the World Cup, but there's politics at play there too, the Guards are recruiting. We have a member of the Armed Response Unit coming in. We have a member of the Forensic Investigations Unit coming in to tell us all about their work and to see whether people listening might be interested in following in their footsteps. And once a week on the programme, we bring people a selection of music, and this has become a bit of a cult hit on our programme. Power ballads last week in particular went down an absolute storm. Ed Smith has chosen some summer songs, sunny songs, but he has a couple of like angsty ones in there. I'm not going to reveal what they are, but I think there might be controversy. Like there's no Katrina in the Waves, which I'm very surprised about. So myself and Ed will be having a conversation, let's say, about this later on. But the best of luck with your job interview.
Thanks very much. Hope it goes well.
He said it's
You kept putting it up to me. You came in and you're always coming in glamorous, and I looked like I'd be dragged in through a head. So I thought, one of these days it's time for a die. Claire, thank you very much, Claire. We'll be with you at 20 to 9. Now, before that, Gardaí are investigating an email that was sent yesterday to primary schools in County Clare, which threatened bomb attacks or mass shootings. A number of schools did close, but have since reopened with a visible Garda presence. Cormac O'Keefe is security correspondent with the Irish Examiner. Cormac, will you bring us up to speed, and will you also remind us of how this was received for anybody who didn't hear the details?
Well, it emerged yesterday morning when the first school contacted Gardaí and alerted them to an email, and in a very short period of time, the phone line of the Garda station was hopping with a total of 20 schools contacting them, saying that they had received similar emails, either to say that there were bombs placed at their schools and were ready to go off, or that there would be mass shootings at their school, in some cases with photographs of firearms attached to the email. So highly unusual incident to take place early on Wednesday morning. So the guards went through their procedure for assessing such threats. That they asked staff was ranting, out of the ordinary in their schools, any bags, packages, anything like that. But it had the signs either of a prank or something else. We still don't know what it might be. There's all sorts of possibilities as to what might be behind the attack.
Now, obviously, when parents would have seen this, there may have been some skepticism about the likelihood of it happening. But even if there is the tiniest, minuscule fraction of a percentage of a chance that it could, it must have been absolutely terrifying for those and for the staff within the schools.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, staff, probably are all in the schools already. Not sure exactly what time the first school received the email, but it could have been before the children arrived. So I say there was a bit of pandemonium and throughout all the schools, because, as you say, no matter how remote this possibility is, the chances of bombs being placed at 20 different schools in a county in Ireland is extremely remote. But Gardaí have to go through the procedure of assessing the risk. It's a school decision, it's a board of management decision whether ultimately schools will reopen or not. And unless Gardaí believe